Have you ever felt like your past controls your life, or that happiness is something only lucky people get to enjoy? Well, this book, The Courage to be Disliked, challenges all of that. It was written by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, two Japanese authors with very different backgrounds. But this isn't an ordinary self-help book. It's written as a dialogue between a wise philosopher and a curious young man. The young man comes to challenge the philosopher, to argue, question, and even prove him wrong. He can't believe life could be simple, or that anyone can truly be happy. But through 5 long nights of deep conversation, his view of life begins to change. This story isn't about theory. It's about you and me. It's about learning that happiness is a choice, not a reward. So are you ready to open your mind, challenge what you believe, and discover the courage to be disliked? The first night. Trauma doesn't control your life. You do. The first night begins with a heated debate. A young man visits an old philosopher, determined to prove him wrong. He has one big question. Can people really change? He believes life is hard, unfair, and shaped by the past. If someone had a bad childhood, strict parents, or painful memories, that's it. Those past events decide who you are today, right? But the philosopher smiles and says something shocking. No, your past does not decide your life. You do. This idea stuns the young man. How could that be true? Isn't our life controlled by what already happened? The philosopher explains, we don't live in an objective world. We live in a world we give meaning to. It's like wearing dark glasses. The world seems dark, not because it is, but because of what you're wearing. If you take off those glasses, the world changes instantly. Then comes the biggest twist. Trauma does not exist. According to Adlerian psychology, nothing from your past can determine your present. It only has the meaning you give to it. The philosopher says, we are not driven by causes from the past. We move toward goals in the present. He calls this idea teleology, living with purpose instead of blame. For example, a man who stays locked in his room isn't trapped by fear. He chooses fear as a reason to avoid facing the outside world. It's not that he cannot go out. He decides not to. Even emotions like anger are explained differently. We don't get angry and shout. We shout because we want to control someone. And anger becomes our tool. That's how powerful the human mind is. We create our emotions to achieve our hidden goals. The young man is confused and furious. It's hard to believe that we choose our own unhappiness. But the philosopher ends the night with one unforgettable line. Your life is not decided by the past. It is decided here and now. All you need is the courage to change. And with that, the young man leaves, angry but curious. Because deep down something inside him has already started to change. The second night. Every problem is an interpersonal problem. The young man returns to the philosopher's home, restless, doubtful, but unable to stay away. Last time he heard that trauma doesn't exist, that people can change any time. He couldn't sleep after that conversation. Now he's ready to argue again. This time he asks, if the past doesn't control me, then why do I still hate myself? The philosopher smiles gently and says, that's because all your problems come from relationships with other people. The young man is puzzled. What do you mean, all problems? The philosopher nods. Whether it's sadness, anger, or loneliness, behind every pain is a struggle with others. He explains how we create feelings of inferiority by comparing ourselves to people around us. We see someone smarter, richer, or happier, and immediately think we're not enough. But that's just a story we tell ourselves. An inferiority feeling is natural. It pushes us to grow. But when we turn it into an inferiority complex, everything changes. It's when you stop trying to grow and start believing, I can't because I'm not good enough. You begin to use your weakness as an excuse to avoid challenges, telling yourself that your life is already decided. That's what makes the inferiority complex so dangerous. It's not about what others think of you. It's about the story you keep telling yourself. The philosopher says, people aren't defeated by others. They defeat themselves by believing they can't change. He then gives an example. A person who brags all the time doesn't feel superior. He's hiding deep insecurity. And those who criticize others are often afraid of being seen as weak. Every struggle we face, at work, school, or home, is rooted in how we see and compare ourselves with others. The philosopher challenges the young man again. Life is not a competition. Stop trying to win or lose against others. When you compare, you stop seeing who you truly are. The young man sits quietly. He remembers how often he's judged himself through other people's eyes, his looks, his job, even his worth. And for the first time, he wonders, what if his suffering isn't coming from others, but from the way he's chosen to view others? The philosopher ends the second night with calm words. When you stop competing, you stop hating yourself. When you stop trying to be better than others, you start to grow. The young man leaves once again, his pride shaken, but his curiosity burning stronger than ever. The third night. How to free yourself from the expectations of others. The third night begins quietly. The young man walks in holding a notebook filled with questions. He looks frustrated. Last time he learned that all problems come from relationships, but tonight he wants to know how to escape them. He says, "Philosopher, people's opinions are everywhere. I'm constantly worrying about what others think of me, whether I'm liked, respected, or accepted. How can anyone live freely in such a world?" The philosopher smiles. That's because you're living your life to satisfy other people's expectations. You're trying to please everyone, and that's impossible. He introduces a life-changing idea from Adler. Separate your tasks. What does that mean? The young man asks. The philosopher replies, it means to clearly see what is your task and what belongs to others. For example, studying hard for an exam is your task, but whether others praise you for it, that's their task. Doing your job well is your task, but whether your boss likes you, that's not your task. Most of our pain, the philosopher explains, comes from crossing into other people's tasks, trying to control how they feel, how they react, or how they see us. We live in fear of rejection, of being disliked, and that fear steals our freedom. Then he says something bold. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. True freedom is not being controlled by other people's opinions. The young man protests. But if I stop caring about what others think, won't they hate me? The philosopher laughs softly. They might. But remember, that's their task, not yours. He pauses, then adds, when you stop living for recognition, you finally start living your life. The young man looks down, realizing how much of his life has been shaped by the desire to be accepted. The way he dresses, speaks, even dreams. Now he understands that always trying to please others has been holding him back, like an invisible rope around his freedom. As the night ends, the philosopher says gently, to be truly free, you must have the courage to be disliked. The young man nods slowly. He still doesn't fully understand it, but he can feel deep inside that his world is beginning to open. The fourth night. The center of the world is not you, but community. The fourth night begins with silence. The young man sits across from the philosopher, still thinking about freedom and rejection. He says, "I tried not to care what others think, but now I feel lonely. If I stop living for people's approval, what's left for me?" The philosopher nods gently. "You've finally taken your first step toward freedom. But now you must learn what connects all people. The feeling of community." The young man frowns. "Community? You mean society?" "Not exactly," says the philosopher. "It's the feeling that you are part of something larger, that you belong to the world and the world belongs to you." He explains that many of our struggles come from believing we are the center of everything. We think, "Why don't people understand me? Why don't they treat me better?" But when you stop asking how the world treats you and start asking how you can contribute to the world, everything changes. The philosopher continues, "You are not the center of the world. You are a member of it, connected to everyone else." He teaches that life becomes lighter when you shift from self-interest to shared interest, from "what can I get" to "what can I give." The philosopher also explains that we shouldn't focus on praising or blaming people. When you praise someone, it can make them feel judged. When you blame them, it only creates distance. Instead, he says, encourage others, help them see their own strength. The young man listens quietly. For the first time, he feels a strange sense of peace. He remembers all the times he tried to be special, to stand out, to prove his worth, and realizes that happiness was never in being above others, but in feeling connected with them. The philosopher ends the night softly. Your worth isn't measured by what you achieve or how others see you. It comes from knowing that you're part of something bigger, that your existence itself has value. The young man leaves that night with no anger, no arguments, only a calm thought echoing in his heart. Maybe real happiness isn't about being special. It's about feeling connected to others. The fifth night, live with courage. In the present moment, the fifth night begins with a peaceful mood. The young man arrives, not to argue this time, but to understand. He says softly, "I think I finally see it, but I still don't know how to live it. How can I truly be happy in the world I'm in right now?" The philosopher smiles. "That's a good question. The answer is simple. Live here and now." The young man frowns. "But what does that mean? Should I just ignore the future?" The philosopher shakes his head. "No. It means stop letting the past and future steal your life today. Don't say, 'I'll be happy when I get this,' or 'I'll change someday.' Life is happening only in this moment, and this moment is enough." He explains that people waste their lives chasing approval, success, or perfection. They want to be special beings, someone admired, famous, or unforgettable. But the philosopher says, it takes more courage to be ordinary, to live each day sincerely, to do your work, and to give to others without expecting praise. He teaches that work is not just a way to earn money. It's how we contribute to the world. Every action, no matter how small, adds meaning to life when it helps someone else. The young man sits quietly. He remembers all the time he spent worrying about the future and realizes how much of the present he has missed. The philosopher says, "Don't try to live for results. Live like you're dancing, not for the finish, but for the joy of each step." Then he adds one final truth. Happiness isn't something you chase. It's something you choose. Right here, right now, the young man looks out the window. The night sky feels brighter, the air lighter. He came searching for the meaning of happiness, but discovers it's been within him all along. He smiles for the first time, calm, free, and alive in the present. And at last he understands the message of all 5 knights. To be happy, to be free, and to live fully, you must have the courage to be disliked. Final thoughts. And so the 5 knights come to an end. The young man who once believed that life was unfair now sees that happiness was never waiting somewhere far away. It was always within him. He learns that the past doesn't define the future, that relationships are not battles to win, that freedom begins when you stop living for others, that true worth comes from belonging to the world, and that happiness is found not in perfection, but in the courage to live each moment sincerely. The philosopher never gave him the answers. He simply helped him see what was already there, and maybe that's the real magic of this book. It doesn't tell you how to change your life. It shows you that you already can. So as you finish this story, take a deep breath. Forget who you think you're supposed to be, and remember, the world is simple, life is now, and happiness begins when you have the courage to be disliked. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to subscribe to AI Tools channel, your guide to world-renowned, life-changing book summaries, the latest AI tools, fascinating science and mystery topics, and smart investment tips. Just like the courage to be disliked teaches us, true growth begins when you open your mind, take action, and keep learning every day.